Hey, this is Jim. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I've got a couple guests today who are on their way to having their goal for 2020 is a $750,000 year in sales on Amazon. They've got family helping them out in different parts of the country, feeding inventory into their account. They've taught them how to do the system so that they have a widespread team, almost a network of shoppers. It's a really cool story. It's not without its challenges. It started off a bit rough, but they jumped into the Proven Amazon course, and then they jumped into our coaching program, and then their business exploded. And it's just a great story. They're going to share all the details. The first 75% or so of the show is them telling their story. The last 25% or so is them telling techniques and strategies and tips. There's strategies mixed out throughout the entire show, actually, today. Lots of good tips in there for you. But it's a really great couple. You're going to love hanging out with them. It's Brian and Robin Olson. They made a great post in our Facebook group not too long ago, kind of talking excitedly about where they were in their business journey, posting some results. So we reached out to them, asked them to be guests. They agreed. And here we have another great episode. This is happening so much. I can hardly keep up with all the great people who are doing great things in our community. So God bless you, business building warrior. We're going to jump over right now and get them on the line. You're going to love hanging out with these guys today. So Brian and Robin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having us.
Hi, Jim.
Long-time listeners, first-time caller.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, good line. Way to pull that one out. I don't think we've had that before. I love it. I love it. So we got some talk radio fans in the house today, apparently. No, it really is a compelling story that you guys have put together as coaching students and seeing your business grow. And man, that awesome post you guys dropped in the Facebook group not long ago. We'll talk about that a little bit, sharing your story. It just motivates and inspires everyone from the person who joined our community yesterday all the way up to me, been doing this 20 years, seeing those stories pop in just is so inspirational. So I want to hear your story. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Take us wherever you'd like. I might have some questions as we go.
Okay, awesome. That's good. Well, thanks for having us, Jim. We really are honored. And we have been inspired by you and your podcast and the MST community for, coming up on 2 years now. So I'll take you back a little bit. We kind of, I've always been an entrepreneurial spirited guy. I think one of our first dates together was at a MLM conference, and I've tried a number of different things along the way, and including did some day trading for a while. We sold some things on eBay, some luxury goods we were buying, odd lots of and reselling those. Kind of stumbled into real estate investing because we had a property that we were relocating out of state, and the market wasn't great, so we decided to hold it as a rental. And then that blossomed into some stuff that ultimately we got in trouble with. But anyway, it was still fun. And we've also sold electronic products on eBay. And after the real estate sort of I don't know if debacle is too strong of a word for it, but we were a bit scarred because we got caught with 5 or 6 properties in various stages of repair when the market really turned around in 2007. And that was not a fun experience. And I have to say, I was kind of tail between legs for at least a decade in terms of my entrepreneur activities. But in the summer of 2018, I had taken a new job. And even though I knew I didn't want to work that job for another 15 or 20 years until I retired, the job also came along with this 2 to 3 hour round trip commute every day. So I had a ton of time. And of course, I fell back on the traveling university and decided it was time to entertain some of those entrepreneurial opportunities again. So I was listening to audiobooks and podcasts, and I eventually got on the trail of leveraging the Amazon platform. And I thought, this is, I think, the direction that I'm going to explore. And I don't remember exactly how it was I came across your podcast, Jim. It was like someone mentioned you in some other podcast and the 6 degrees of separation. But I do remember vividly listening to episode 134 with Carolyn. And I even remember like the spot of the highway that I was on when I was listening to the beginning of her show.
No way. Which episode was that?
That was the From Homeless to Homeowner, episode 134.
134.
Yeah.
Wow. You remember the episode number?
I had to go back and look it up. I
We do share it pretty often when people ask us about it. We go ahead and share that episode because it inspired us.
yeah,
Brian
Yeah.
at first.
Yeah. And her book, From Homeless to Homeowner, it's on
right,
Amazon. It's one of the more
yeah,
compelling stories from our community. Yeah, listeners should go back and check that one out. That's so great. Man, I
yeah,
just love her story. What a dear friend. And
yeah,
yeah, I could talk
yeah.
about her for half an hour.
It was definitely inspirational, and
Awesome.
even though uh, it just the story people can pick up a lot of things from that story. The motivation, the hard times, the finding a new perspective on life, and we take the shopping cart approach with a lot of the things that we listen to and read, and she definitely had a lot to offer there.
Mm.
So anyway, I started looking at some other Amazon expert systems over the next couple of months, and the most important part of me and the Silent team is that your community engendered like a really high level of trust with me, and I just kept coming back. Right,
Mm.
I would look at I would look at this course or look at this way of doing Amazon, and I just kept gravitating back. And I don't know if you know it or not, or if people tell you this, but you do engender a high level of trust, and that's what ultimately brought me uh, to the My Silent team. And I ended up buying Pack. I think it was October or November of 2018, and then of course, like I hear a lot of people say, I became overwhelmed with the sheer amount of information in there, and I had a little bit of analysis paralysis. But I ended up going back to the basics for me, and the basics include like fostering a positive mental attitude, practicing gratitude, dreaming big, and taking some calculated risks. And the one thing that I really bought in with what you talk about and what's in the Proven Amazon course is inch deep, mile wide. I knew I wasn't going to get too hurt, unlike the real estate adventure that we had, where you're really deep in a few things. This opportunity allows us to stretch and identify some good opportunities without really getting burned.
That's right.
So,
Inch deep, mile wide. We say that all around here all the time. And inevitably, when we say it, maybe I should take just a moment to explain what that means,
mhm.
because some people may not get the visual, especially those maybe outside the United States who are like, inch and a mile. What's that? Wait. We're the only ones that
Well,
use those crazy terms.
right,
Basically, it's spreading your risk across several different products. We
yeah,
don't teach our new students to go out and find that one perfect product. There's a lot of courses out there. You can pay thousands of dollars. They're going to sell you a bunch of tools and they're going to teach you how to do this fancy research and identify that one magic product that you can go buy 10,000 units of and put them in your garage. And then step two, we're going to teach you how to sell it. That's going to be awesome too. Well, the problem is it
yeah,
usually doesn't work out. Step two usually ends up with your wife telling you that get that out of your garage now because it's been a year and a half.
yep,
That's the reality of step two. I talked to someone just this morning. That was their reality from taking one of those big expensive courses and
yeah,
paying those big pricey monthly tools that told them this is a winner. Instead, we do the inch deep, mile wide, which means buy two or three of this item, two or three of that item, five or six of that item. Now,
yep,
we're teaching you how to test as you go. You're not guessing. You're not just randomly pulling items off of a shelf somewhere. We teach
right,
you how to identify really great products and you test a few at a time. And if they sell fast and you make money, well, then you go get more. And
yep,
it's a pretty simple strategy that works really well. And you guys are doing extremely well with this inch deep, meaning we're not committing very far to anything. Mile wide, meaning it's a wide stretch of different products that we're listing on Amazon. And if we lose money on two or three items because it doesn't work out, we lower the price, we liquidate, we take a little hit. But the
exactly.
winners we go deeper on. That's the inch
Mhm.
deep, mile wide strategy. It's key.
Yep,
And to my knowledge, we're the only ones that teach that as a starting point. For some reason, it's not that, I don't know, big flashy buy a car next month kind of strategy that people get excited about with the other courses. But the
yeah,
reality is we have way more success stories than anyone as a result of our slow and steady, which is a
right,
biblical approach. Wealth
yep,
gained hastily ends poorly. That's a biblical concept.
okay.
Slow and steady wealth, that's what you want to be doing. So, all right, I took up enough time explaining that. Let's get back to the awesome story, guys.
Well, in 20, actually, I think it was the fall of 2017, we had we had bought a house that was kind of like our dream home. It wasn't a mansion or anything, but it had everything that we'd been looking for in a home for a long time, in terms of the layout, the neighborhood, the location. I mean, everything about this,
Great house.
yeah, was perfect for us. And as sad as it might sound, we decided to sell that house and move closer to my job. We downsized from this nice large house to a 2-bedroom apartment. And for me, I was out to remove as many distractions as I could, because I knew I wanted to focus on building this business. And I didn't want, to be weighed down by taking care of the yard or doing stuff around the house or whatever. And even though it added a 2 to 3 hour daily commute for Robin, she was 100% supportive. And interestingly, Robin was not with me on the Amazon journey at that time. She was
fully supportive.
Oh yeah. She was,
of course,
but she had her own thing going on. She was working on her career. She was trying to get her master's degree wrapped up. We actually thought that she would. We moved from Colorado Springs to Denver, and we thought, well, she's going to find a new role up in Denver, and so the commute that she had would be temporary. So that was kind of what was going on in terms of I was kind of doing this on my own, and Robin was still doing her thing. So in April, I committed to the coaching program, and Jim, like the interview process that you have for that. So both of us had to be on the phone, and they had to get buy off that even though Robin wasn't going to participate, that she was still supportive and everything.
And I love it to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Involved. We asked them. Hey, what was your impression, Robin? I'm just curious. We had that call.
Yeah, well, I was impressed with the whole system. Brian had told me a lot about what he was thinking and what he was going to do. Of course, like he said, I was working on, some career building and things of my own that I had started. But, Brian and I have always been completely and totally supportive of each other in our ventures and cheering each other on always, all the time. So yeah, totally happy that I didn't get a surprise, that I didn't know what was going on. So that was nice. We knew what kind of money we were going to commit to putting into it, which wasn't very much. We didn't have very much. I was happy. I was happy
I'm glad you signed off on the idea, because it has turned out very well for you guys.
It has.
Yeah. I'm curious, how long have you guys been married? I'm curious. You just like 2 peas in a pod, man.
Well, so just before I signed up for coaching, we were on a cruise celebrating our 25-year anniversary.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So 26 years this year, and still going strong.
Yeah,
that's fantastic, guys. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so you signed up for coaching, and we'll stick a link in the show notes. If you're watching on video or if you're listening on audio, silentjim.com is the only website you need, guys. And I'll have a link in there to our coaching program, as well as anything else we've talked about. Brian mentioned the pack, which of course is our proven Amazon course, found only at provenamazoncourse.com. That's the course they started with. They jumped into our coaching, and let's pick back up from there. You guys said, hey, let's go. Let's do the coaching thing. Keep the story rolling.
Yeah, well, I knew that I was not going to, I wanted to remove all distractions, and I wanted this to be, 100% success, because I had tried a number of things, right? And I was tired of trying. Try not. There's no try, only do, right? As Yoda would say. So I didn't want to give myself any other options. So that was kind of the background. And we started with RA, so retail arbitrage and online arbitrage with our coach. And so in April of 2018, I had my first session about how to do like sourcing, reverse sourcing and stuff like that. And I think we sold $1,700 roughly about that first month. And I remember posting, I was so stoked. I was like, wow, I sold this thing and I sold that thing. I mean, $1,700 wasn't like a ton, but it really was proof of concept for me. So, but I still didn't really get it. Like I had a session or two, and the concept of sourcing product was a little bit beyond me. And I had found like a daily hot list that I subscribed to, and I was kind of supplementing what I wasn't finding with the items off of this hot list. And not surprisingly, the next month our sales tanked a little bit. I mean, not tanked, but we dropped off a little bit to around 1,600. And I was still kind of struggling with this, and I was a little frustrated, right? Because I would buy a product that looked really good, and then by the time my inventory got into the warehouse, there were like 24 other people on the listing, and the price went down, and I wasn't making any money. And so I would sell to get my cash back because in the meantime, maybe I found something that was a little bit better, right? So I had another session or two with my coach, and like I think she was a little frustrated with me. She's like, you don't understand. Like, you need to spend a few hours each day on this, because if you're just like spending 15 minutes here and 20 minutes there, it's not going to work out. Because a lot of people just spend all day doing this, and you're competing against them. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was kind of a little eye opener. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to start going through this, like, to use a coding analogy, like line by line, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to mark off each line, whether it was a winner or a loser, whether I was going by category, whether I was going by brand. And I started to really build some confidence. And I remember writing in my journal on June 21st, I wrote a vision of what the future was going to look like. And it told a little story. It was like a paragraph, and it basically said, hey, I can't believe we sold $50,000 this month. And we did it in less than a year after starting out in this business. And I really felt like I had a lot of momentum going my way. And then the universe decided to test me. Because on July 1st, a week ago, a year ago this week, Robin had a stroke, a hemorrhagic stroke.
Yes, I did.
Wow. Robin, I wasn't aware of that. How are you
It was a real
recovering?
trial. Sorry.
How are you recovering?
It's been a year, and it's been a recovery, but I was very, very fortunate that it wasn't any more serious or impactful that it was. We just, I woke up one morning and my left side leg and arm didn't work. I woke Brian up, and apparently I wasn't talking right, although I didn't realize it. So we decided to go over to the emergency room, and then we spent the next few days in intensive care unit because my brain was bleeding. And so come to find out, during that time in intensive care, they found out that every time I fall asleep, my blood pressure would go way up, and I would not get enough oxygen. So come to find out, the stroke itself was caused by sleep apnea, where I would stop breathing, and then my brain couldn't get enough oxygen. So my heart would pump hard to get enough oxygen up there. And all I have to say about that is sleep apnea is no joke. It's
Wow.
for serious. But I am very, very, very fortunate.
You look great. You seem to have recovered well, but wow, what little PSA for sleep apnea today.
Right.
Like, take it seriously, right, guys? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, I'm so glad that you're recovering, and
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Jim.
got to think that the flexibility of the lifestyle has kind of played into you being available to help her on this road to recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to be gone 14 hours a day.
Right.
You can be together. That has to make a difference in the recovery from something.
And Brian
like
went
this.
through all of that with me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you what, when something like that happens, it's like full stop. Your world gets very small. As small as that little ICU room is, and like nothing else matters. Right?
That's your world. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the two of us, and it was kind of an eye opener. And it wasn't over when we left there and Robin started her recovery. It was a long process.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, when we left the hospital, we knew what the diagnosis was, we knew what the treatment was, and we knew what the prognosis was. And the doctor who Robin was going to work with when she got out gave her his cell phone number and said, call me, we're going to get this fixed. And I think we were both under the impression that within, a week or two, that, she would have a sleep study and get the machine and do all the stuff. And in reality, it took like 4 months for that to happen. All the while, she's still experiencing the sleep apnea, and it was frustrating.
It was scary and frustrating.
But if anything about that experience, and this business showed me that we want to be in absolutely 100% control of the situation. And as great as the healthcare system is here in the United States, it's not perfect. You get hung up in certain things. Like, I remember one time she was scheduled to get her sleep study, and the day of, the facility called her and said, "Oh, sorry, we don't take your insurance, so you're out." And that was frustrating. And I think we both realized right then that we wanted to be in control of that. And we didn't want any decisions being made for us based on what our insurance was. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to just write a check and do what needs to be done.
Yeah. Financial freedom. There's a lot of challenges to writing a check.
Right. And so that was a real motivation for me as Robin came home and started her recovery. I was able to squeeze in some sourcing time. Again, didn't tear anything up really. We were pretty flat in terms of sales, around 1,600. But in August, I really started to get a handle on this and feel like I was getting some momentum on or what I call organic sourcing, right? Which is you find it yourself, then come from a list, and you didn't find it from someone else's store necessarily. You just you found it on your own.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the buy lists. I've probably seen in my career of being an e-commerce guy, I've seen probably 50 buy this lists. Like you can subscribe and you get it in your email, or you get your monthly list or whatever. I've seen one that held its own for a significant period of time. And even that one, I don't mention it because a few more people using it and suddenly it's no good either. Learning to find stuff on your own is the way to go, because those lists get passed around. There's people who will subscribe to 10 lists and compile randomly items from those lists and create their own lists. And now just rehashed, recycled. It can be it can be a decent way for the first couple of weeks to maybe get some ideas on what other people think is selling well, but it's not a long-term play. So organic. I love that word. Learning how to do it yourself, basically, pulling up the bootstraps and saying, "I'm going to dive in." That's the way to do it.
Well, and just to be clear, my coach did not suggest that I get the hot list, right?
It would surprise me if they had, because they've all heard me rant on this exact same topic.
So that was something I kind of did on my own as I started exploring a little bit. And I did, to be honest, I did a number of things at that time. July and August, I was like bouncing around, right? I know you talk about it a lot, but I was like, oh, I'm going to try KDP. Oh, I'm going to try bundles. Oh, I'm going to try wholesale. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I remember my coach saying, you got to focus on something, because if you're doing all this, bouncing around, you're really going to struggle. And then like I heard Oscar Mutumbo's podcast, and come to find out that we both had the same coach. So I circled back with my coach and I was like, hey, what am I missing here? Because he's doing a lot more sales than I am. And she was like, you're not missing anything. He's just putting time in. He's finding his SKUs. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I did start to build up a list. In August, I think I had about 60 SKUs, and I was feeling pretty confident. All my SKUs were from one store, Target. And then when J.R. Cagle's podcast came out, which was shortly after that, I was sitting here going, oh my gosh, he's telling all my secrets, right? Because at the time, if it wasn't a deal at Target, it wasn't a deal for me, because I didn't shop Walmart or discount stores or, other than Target really. So I basically sourced all my stuff at Target, and it helped that we had one just like 2 minutes from the house.
We kind of tease him now. He says, I wouldn't go to Walmart to save money, but I'd go to Walmart to make money.
Yeah.
Oops, I was muted there. I was sorry. I was talking with my mute on. That's I love it, Robin. It's great hitting the store and kind of having a goal of, I want to make at least as much money as I'm about to spend before I come out of here too, isn't it?
Exactly.
Kind of the fun way to think of this business at times.
Yeah. So September was fast approaching, and I was already signed up for the Proven Conference, had my VIP pass and all that good stuff. And I was really excited. I mean, at this point, I was really starting to feel good about how things were going. And but the challenge was I also had 2 day job trips earlier that month. So I was basically gone for the first 3 weeks of September. So not only was I leaving Robin behind in a situation that wasn't ideal yet, because we were still struggling at that point to get all the treatment that she needed, but I spent as much time as I could in August just stuffing that FBA pipeline full of all my new 60 deals that I found. And I was just really excited. And of course, I get to the conference and I'm there a day early, and I go into like whatever day it was, Tuesday, I think, afternoon, and to pick up my lanyard and all that good stuff. And like one of the first people I see is Oscar. And so I walked up to him, and I shook his hand, and we met in person. Like we'd met on Facebook before the conference, but It was actually great to meet him in person. But before long, and you remember this, there was like a crowd of people around Oscar. And so I kind of like, backed out of that. And I ended up chatting with another guy who I still talk with all the time today, Adam Wilson, who super nice guy. We kind of hit it off. We ended up going out to dinner and chatting about our businesses and stuff. He introduced me to Jason Golden, who was already there as well. And to this day, I actually have a mastermind group with Adam and Jason and Lori, Brian, and John. And the coolest part, I mean, people often say like the networking is where it's at when it comes to the Proven Conference, or I can't remember what it was called before that.
CES. Yeah.
And that's true. I mean, I got a lot out of all the sessions as well. I was calling Robin all the time, like, "Oh my gosh, you would not believe this I just learned, or this person I just met, or whatever." But meeting these people and having a relationship with them after we left kind of allowed me to bring that excitement and rekindle that every month or every couple of weeks with these folks. And so I will absolutely support that. The networking component of the Proven Conference is worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not in denial that the fact of the matter is when we all get together, it's not who's on stage. That's pretty irrelevant at the end of the day. In the final analysis, it's the people sitting in the chairs, getting relationships with them. And the nice thing is you don't have to wait for a live event to do that. It's still up in the air whether we're going to be able to do our event here in 2020, as we're in July right now recording this, and it's coming up in October. And are we going to be allowed to gather or not? We don't know. Theprovenconference.com is the website. We'll stick it in the show notes too. If we can't gather, your ticket's good for our 2021 event, which is July 2021 in Tampa. And we're going to have an awesome virtual event at a minimum where we can at least put some of these great stories. We'll probably take several days, a few hours at a time, and record all of it for all the ticket holders. At least gather virtually and deliver some of the latest cutting edge stuff that's happening in our community, the content and such. But we're going to do one way or the other. We are going to do something in October of 2020, but we just aren't sure what yet, based on how the world changes.
Right.
But yeah, thanks for mentioning that. They've been just the most incredible events, and every time people walk away saying, "Man, it's the relationships, it's the people in the room." Finally, someone that doesn't look at me like I'm crazy when I say I sell on Amazon. Instead, they've got ideas for it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. Well, I learned a ton there. And like I said, I was calling Robin all the time, but I do want to bring up two things that came to light while I was there. Number one, after like the informal sort of networking, there was some formal networking. And when I say formal, is like there were some scheduled times for that. But then there was also some time when people were just sort of like killing time and they were hanging out. And I don't say killing time because it was still productive, but they were hanging out in the cafeteria area. And I was sitting at the table with JR and a couple of guys that he knows, and they're all talking about their repricer. And I was like, "Repricer? What's a repricer?" And so I got the skinny on that. I was like, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." So I went back to the hotel room that night and researched a couple of options and got a trial on one and turned it on. And I mean, it was like an instant difference in terms of the velocity of things that I was selling. And some things were selling for maybe a little less than I targeted. Others were selling for a little more than I targeted. And it ended up being a really awesome deal. The second thing that I wanted to bring up, because I've heard you mention it before, is payability. I'm a payability guy. And I signed up while I was at the conference. And it made a huge difference in our business in terms of being able to buy product consistently and just get things sent in. I mean, without payability, we'd be challenged to send in 2 or 3 shipments a week, right? At that time, because of payability, and it does come at a cost, I'll admit, we were able to just go shopping virtually every day and send in 2 or 3 shipments a week. And we ended up having for us what we thought was a phenomenal Q4 because of that. Those 2 things, actually.
Fantastic. Yes, you researched repricers, and I've heard good things about pretty much all the repricers out there, except the one that Amazon provides.
Exactly right.
Don't use that one.
Yeah, no, we don't use that one.
The rest of them are good because they'll adjust your price up when it needs to, as well as down when it needs to.
Exactly.
And, Amazon's, I don't think, does that. Last I heard.
Yeah.
But you mentioned payability, a great sponsor of this community. Thanks for giving them a shout out. We sure appreciate them. They've made a lot of our live events possible and a great partner past few years. That just allows you to get your money out sooner rather than waiting on Amazon to send you a check. If Amazon owes you money, they'll go ahead and send you some of it now. It's almost like
Yep.
a one of those payday loan services without the insane interest rates.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get you your money faster, basically. So you can
Right.
keep turning. So you can have a slow and steady workload instead of a spike each time Amazon sends you a check, right? It
Right.
allows you to steady things out for
Yep.
those who are in a position where that's important. The cash flow needs to be steady. Yeah,
Yep.
thanks for mentioning them.
You
Yeah, good
bet.
tips for sure.
So I was so excited. I was calling Robin all the time, and as the sales started to pick up, I remember telling her like, "Geez, I think we're going to almost triple what we did in July in terms of sales." And Robin said to me at that point,
I want in.
"I want in." Yeah.
He was ready to get in. Now, what point in time was this?
So this was upon return from the Proven Conference, so late September.
That won
So
you
all of
over.
our the way we looked at life had really changed, and all of my goals and things that I thought that I was going to do in building my career and everything, the way I looked at that had all changed. And Brian was so excited, and everything was working out well. And then, yeah, I knew that we together we could do a lot of good things. So
Well, I knew
That's awesome.
as soon as she committed, I knew we were about to get on a rocket ship because
The
Robin,
synergy effect, right? 1 + 1 = 5 now.
even more than that, it's really like 1 + 2 = like 10 because when she gets going on something, yes, when she gets going on something, she will break it down into a science and just she's awesome at it. And so I remember getting back and I was showing her how to source. So I'm basically teaching her what my coach taught me, along with the little things that I've learned along the way, or maybe were applicable to the deals that I'd found. And she got going on that. What were the parameters I was telling
you told me to find things that were a minimum of 40% ROI, a minimum of $5 per sale, and sold a minimum of 5 times a month.
Right. So I kind of laid it out, which is basically what my coach did for me, and said, and here's some examples, which my coach wasn't able to do for me, specifically. They don't give you just a thing for the coaching program. They're not going to, just because you sign up for coaching, they're not going to give you a list of products.
No,
right?
we don't spoon feed anyone
Yeah.
because as soon as you do that, it becomes useless the next day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was able to do that. These were deals that were already found, that were already in our inventory, right? So she was able to sort of reverse engineer that and see how that worked. So at that point in time, we really started this 5-month period of what I've heard you say before, intense focused effort. And it was October, November, December, January, February. And we were just sourcing left and right. And once Robin got the hang of it, I was really impressed. And I was like, you know what? Like, if you are able to find like 8 SKUs a day, pretty sure you don't have to go back to work. Because at that point, she was debating about whether she was going to find a new job in Denver or keep her old one in Colorado Springs and whatever. And I was like, if we can find this kind of SKU, this quantity of SKUs, then I don't think you need to go back to work. Well, I mean, just give Robin a challenge and she'll knock it out of the park. And that's exactly what she did. And we would sit down every morning and write in our journals, like what our previous day sales was and what our month to date sales was and how many SKUs Robin found. And we just started this synergy like you were talking about. And
we still do that today. We did that this morning.
Yeah, we still
do
that every day. Yeah. So, but see, here's where Robin. Let me just add some context to the story here. Where early on, where I was saying like, if it wasn't a deal at Target, it wasn't a deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Robin was able to actually figure out where all these deals could actually be sourced, and whether it was Walmart or whatever the store is, right? But she found that a lot of opportunities in some regional stores out in the Midwest that we don't have here in Colorado. Well, it just so happens that we have family in the Midwest, and so we actually scheduled, put some feelers out, and to our niece to see if she might be interested in doing some kind of part-time work for us. She's a stay-at-home mom of 2, homeschools her kids, very sharp, could do whatever she wanted to in the corporate world, but chooses to stay at home, and she was receptive, and so we booked a trip out to Cincinnati. And we spent 4 days out there with Robin's brother and her sister-in-law and our niece. And we actually spent pretty much 3.5 days of shopping, prepping, and shipping while we were there. And we just I remember sitting on the plane. We were like, Robin was like, well, when should we kind of, tell my brother exactly what we're doing,
Yeah, well, I didn't want him to think that we were getting his daughter into some, shady thing or anything. I wanted to make sure he understood what we were about. So,
Of
which
course.
you would expect, but
so
Yeah,
I was
because
like,
it can be difficult to explain to people. You say, I sell on Amazon, I do retail flips, or, building a brand or whatever it is. It's just such foreign territory to your average person you encounter, even
yeah,
family, close friends. Like, you do what now?
right. So I said, well, let's go out to dinner and, kind of break the ice a little bit. We hadn't seen him in a long time. And it was just, we wanted to catch up. So they picked us up from the airport. And the airport's on the southwest side of the city, and they live on outside of the northeast part of town. So we had about a 90-minute drive. And we're not 5 minutes into the car. And Robin's like, do you want to know what we're doing? Do you want to know what we're doing? Because the excitement was just boiling over, right? And her brother was like, of course, tell us what you're doing. And so we just like vomited all over them for like 90 minutes of everything. And they got excited too. And so, like I said, we did 3.5 days of shopping. We went to all the regional stores. We went to the regular stores too, the Walmarts and the Targets and all these places. And we would have some fun with it sometimes. Like we'd walk into a Meyer, let's say, and I would say, okay, if you can find, we actually showed people how to do sourcing, like a light version of sourcing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay, if you can find a deal and I can validate it here on my phone, I'll give you $20 for the SKU. And I think I paid out like $140 that weekend, right? And everyone it was so much fun. We had a blast. Her brother and sister-in-law set up their own Amazon sellers account before we left. Mm-hmm. And we broke $10,000 in sales while we were there.
Yeah.
It was just so cool. And we ended up closing out the month at like 12,000, and we were stoked, like just on fire. Right. And Q4 for us hadn't even really started yet. At least I didn't think so until November. We started to see some of the Q4 phenomenon. At least I thought that's what it was. And we were doing, in addition to our standard like replens stuff. And by the way, my coach was teaching me replens before there was a replens coach and before I heard of replens. I wasn't a member of Legends at that time. So it could have been, standard verbiage in some groups, but I didn't know what it was. She just said, buy things that you can send in every month. And I was like, okay, well. And so that turned out to be replens. In addition to those standard SKUs, we were sourcing a ton of like seasonal sundries and groceries or candy, whatever. In Q4, all the Christmas stuff is just, there's a ton of opportunity. And we were shopping, prepping, and shipping every day. And I remember kind of whining to my coach. I'm like, geez, if we're going to hit our goal of $48,000 in sales in December, I think we might be dead because it is so much work, right? And I remember her going, are you kidding me? Like people would die for a $10,000 a month Amazon business. And so, it kind of gave us some perspective, and we closed out, November with just over 21,000 in sales. And December was a little bit different. I think it was a learning curve our first time around in Q4, where we got most of our stuff in before like the cutoff, right? They want you to get all your Q4 stuff in before like December 4th or something. And we had done that. And then we started getting emails from Amazon that said like, okay, stop sending stuff, right? Like we're overwhelmed. But I would see in the Facebook group that people were like, yeah, don't stop, because if you do, then you're going to have a slump, right? In December and January and stuff like that. So keep sending your stuff. And so we were doing that, but most of it was just like getting put to the side, right? Because it wasn't a priority, like a toy or whatever, because we don't sell toys really. So, and then we didn't expect that really quiet period there at the end of the month between Christmas Eve and the 2nd of January. And so we only ended up selling like 29,000 in December. And then we were like,
for us,
only 29,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were still so excited.
Yeah.
What an exciting story. Yeah. And so your family are they still doing it? I'm kind of curious. Are they still?
Yeah. Our brother, Robin's brother and sister-in-law were like this close from $10,000 in June. I mean, They're right there knocking on the door.
Just last month. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And our niece she's not really interested in doing this business on her own. She doesn't want the responsibility, the risk and the hassle of all that. She just likes to go shop. So she shops She preps. She says we pay her by the piece.
She's good at it.
Yeah, she's really good at it.
Very
She's efficient. She's way better at it than either of us.
She tells us stuff all the time.
Yeah. So it's just been phenomenal. And
she's sending inventory into your account then?
Correct.
From the Midwest?
Correct.
That's a great arrangement. I want people to make sure they grasp what it doesn't have to be someone who shows up at your house every day.
Exactly.
Once you understand the concepts in the Proven Amazon course and you can find profitable products, you could have people in different places of the country doing shopping for you, sending the stuff into Amazon for you. You never touch or see it. You guys, I'm noticing something about the background in your house right there. You don't have boxes everywhere.
No, well, not now. Of course, when the whole COVID thing started around mid-March, it was the beginning of a pivot point, right? So I remember pretty clearly we were visiting kids and grandkids down in the southern part of the state. And on the way back home, we stopped at a Walmart, which was not unusual. I mean, we like to hit Walmarts around different parts of the state. And we walked in and there were a lot of the aisles were wiped out. And, I'd seen pictures of this, like in areas that maybe get hit by hurricanes or, massive snowstorms or whatever. And we do live in the mountains. And we get a lot of snowstorms, but in the town that I grew up in, that kind of stuff didn't happen. People weren't like panicked. They didn't ever panic about this kind of stuff. But when COVID came around, like obviously the things everyone knows now, right? Like the toilet paper aisle was cleaned out, the rice aisle was cleaned out, the cleaning supply aisle was cleaned out. It was all cleaned out.
And we didn't know what was happening that day.
Yeah, I mean, this was still mid-March, and so I was still kind of like, yeah, this is not going to stick, right? But we noticed something when we got home from that trip. It's not unusual for us to be out of stock on stuff, Jim, because the things that we found that sell really well for us, it's hard to get enough of them. So we'll send in a shipment, and we'll back it up with another shipment of that stuff. And even if we buy it every week, we're almost always really low in terms of inventory. So, and oftentimes we're out. But when we got home and we looked over our inventory list, and by this time, Robin had gotten us up to around like 800 SKUs that we could buy and sell profitably, which is way more than we could afford. But we noticed that not only were we out of stock on a lot of things, but Amazon was completely out of stock on a lot of things. And so we saw an opportunity to kind of pivot, to do some merchant fulfill and strike while the iron's hot, right? So we could buy this and we could put it in a box and we could send it in and then it might sell in 2 weeks. Or we could buy it today and sell it today. And that's kind of what we started doing.
Ship it yourself. That's what merchant fulfill is. And that's where we heard the stories. And we're still hearing these stories because online shopping, especially specifically for groceries in the US, but for virtually everything else, basically doubled in the past 90, 100 days. So many people who didn't shop online before are now, and they're going to Amazon. So you can literally be in a scenario where if you're willing to merchant fulfill, which means ship it yourself, like the good old days of eBay, everybody shipped everything themselves, right?
Yeah.
You can be in the checkout line listing products that you haven't paid for yet on Amazon, and they're selling before you've even paid for them. So you go out to your car, take them home, and ship them right then. And it was a bonanza, and it still is for so many of the hottest products. Anything in the essentials categories and the cleaning and even toys and games and things that people are doing together as families. There's this hot products everywhere right now. It's such an incredible time. And then we're leading into, as we're recording this, it's July of 2020. We're leading into the fourth quarter. Our Q4 groups are going to be insane this year because the whole world is going to shop online this year for Christmas.
There's a new thing going on with keepographs right now. And that is like, you'll see like the normal sort of drops in there. And then it goes down and it's like this, right? I don't know if I can see my hands, right? It just goes down and then it stays down here. And I'm seeing this with a lot of products that, they sold okay, before, but now they're just like staying pegged in a very low BSR area. So they're selling consistently, rapidly. It used to be something that people bought. I mean, the way I interpret that graph that you just described is it's something that people typically bought off the shelf at a retail store. Now they're only buying it online. Exactly. Yeah. So by the time April comes around, we are just doing MF like mad people. It was crazy. Like we would go to the store like every day in some cases, and we would buy all the stuff because you mentioned it before. Like the phenomenon of the shelves being emptied out is kind of it's a localized thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in your neck of the woods, like people weren't panicking and clearing the shelves necessarily of maybe other than the standard things, but in other parts of the country, everything was wiped out. And so for us, there were still, most things were in stock. And so we just kept buying and we'd bring it home and we'd list it. And I remember one shopping trip in particular, we bought, like was our biggest, had so much confidence now that we were going to sell it. We bought so much stuff. We brought it home and we unpacked it, and it was on the table right behind us and on the kitchen counter,
everywhere.
stacked up to here. And we said, all right, we took account of everything and now let's list it. And we listed it like for the next hour. And then, when you're selling things merchant fulfilled, your Amazon app lets you know with a cha-ching noise. And there was cha-chings all night. And we spent, it was great until we got a little cranky with each other, having to pack up like 240 MF orders. And we kind of learned a lesson there, right? In that we had to pace ourselves and only list a certain amount per day, because you could literally sell as much as you wanted to.
Yeah. So it's kind of like running through a field, picking up $5 bills. How much stamina do you have?
Right. Yeah.
Because your bag gets heavy and full, you still got to drag it back to the car. You know, and you still got to eat and sleep. It has felt like that now for several months for many of us, and it's going to be that way for a while. If you know how to find the stuff that we teach you how to find, it's going to feel like that for a while, because there's been a paradigm shift in how the world shops. Online shopping was this nice, steady upward trend over the past 12 years. And all of a sudden we just went plunk, it took a jump. And it's this shock effect that's rippling through the economy. Who's winning? Well, Jeff Bezos become the first trillionaire or whatever it is, right? And all these e-commerce sellers who know how to find retail product and sell it. And it doesn't have to be just Amazon. eBay's up. All the online selling sites are up, but Amazon is taking the bulk of it. They're still half of all e-commerce, especially in the United States. And anyone in the world could be doing this, by the way. That concept we talked about earlier, where you've got your niece, 1,000 miles away, sending stuff in for you. You could be in any country in the world doing the same thing.
Exactly right.
Having shoppers in the US or in Canada or in one of the other countries where Amazon is just on fire. Or you could be selling it on, we have people who use the concepts for, like, I've got a guy who's going to be on the podcast soon. He lives in South Africa. And there's a website there that's kind of the equivalent of Amazon in South Africa. Well, he uses the concepts from the Proven Amazon course on finding repeat sellable products and sells them on that. And he's doing phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Well, so we're getting close to the end here. I'm about to wrap it up. And then I know you always ask, like, do you have any, tips or tricks that you want to share with people?
You read my mind.
Yeah, I'll get to those. But real quick, I just want to say, so we ended up closing out April with almost $54,000 in sales. Over half of that was merchant fulfilled stuff. And it was, stuff that we still make great money on. I think we averaged 67% return on investment on average for all those things that we did merchant fulfill. And, but I circled back to my journal back in June, right before Robin had a stroke, where I told the story, made up the story about how we were going to sell $50,000.
50,000. You blew it away.
We did it. Yeah. So we're so stoked. Right now our niece is actually in the process of relocating to a different part of the country, which we're a little sad about. But one of the reasons she picked her current location is because it's within 20 minutes driving distance to 20 stores that she shops at for us, like Walmarts and Targets and other stores like that. Right.
That's so great.
Right. Plus there's some new stores where she's going to that we haven't sourced at before. And so that's just so cool. And she's got a goal. She's like, hey, I want to fulfill 1,000 items for you a week. And we're like, okay, well, we can make that happen for you. And I kind of mentioned already that Robin's brother and sister-in-law they're going to break 10K this month, I'm sure. And we're in the early stages of replicating our niece's efforts in the area that she's vacating, right? So we're going to have another shopper shipper in that location. We're also working with some individuals in Colorado where we're at to start doing that same thing. Robin's sister is interested in what we're doing. And if she decides to pursue this, she's going to knock it out of the park as well. And we're I think we're going to have a phenomenal 2020 in terms of gross sales. And I don't know. I was thinking about, so we've done 260,000 in the first 6 months. And I know you're always asking people about the numbers, if you're comfortable sharing the numbers. And I am. So that's what we've done in the first 6 months. Oh, mea culpa, by the way, Jim. That image I posted in the Facebook accidentally contained 13 months. Because I'm not as good at math as Robin is. But anyway,
that wasn't just 12 months. That post, we'll stick a link to that post that you made in the show notes today. It wasn't just 12 months. It was 13. I got you.
Yeah, right. But what happened was, the first month, we sold $1,700. So it's still that whole amount that I posted there, just minus $1,700.
It's an important month to show because it shows, it's a fairly flat line, and you're learning and you're experimenting. You're playing around with your buy lists, and you gave up on those. And then finally you're like, okay, let's go find stuff based on what they're teaching us. And let's spend some time. Let's put some time in it. And then you see that graph just start popping up. And then it's this beautiful line that all adds up to what's your goal for 2020? What'd you write in your journal for 2020?
750,000 in sales.
750. Yeah, because the fourth quarter of the year is going to be huge.
Yeah.
So you're only halfway to 500 right now, but 750 is very realistic because those final 3 months could be very, very big.
Well, not only that, but we're spinning up a couple of new shoppers as well. And if they all as good or half as good as our niece, geez, it's going to be pretty much a done deal, I think. So here's some lessons. Okay. And because I see people making posts in the silent team community and struggling to find, I've looked for weeks and weeks and I can't find one thing that's profitable. And I'll just tell you, I was that guy too, right? Mm-hmm. But here's what I think I was doing wrong is I was pot shotting ideas. So I'd be like, oh, let me go check out housewares, and I'm going to look at pots and pans. Oh, I couldn't find anything there. Okay, let me go over to grocery and see if I can find something over there. Or let me go, look. And I was just bouncing around instead of just like going item by item through in each of those categories, or even brand by brand in each of the things that they sell. And that was really kind of what stifled the growth early on. But once you get it, right, going line by line, like if you were debugging code, basically, it's kind of like a stereogram picture. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Okay, so like these things that are like 3D, but you got to let your eyes do the certain trick before you can see it. And some people, they really struggle to see it, right? But once you see it, you know how to make that happen. You can do it anytime you want. Unsee it. Exactly. Right. So I remember Oscar saying like, oh, all I see now are deals when he was doing his podcast. And we're exactly the same way now.
We challenge each other.
It took some time, but we'll go into the store and we're like, okay, take this 4-foot section of stuff. Which one do you think is the deal? And 99 times out of 100, Robin picks it. She's like, this one right here. And so anyway, so you have to it's not necessarily fun in the beginning when you're not finding deals, but you have to slow down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least I did. I had to slow down and go line by line. And once I did that, I found myself being a lot more successful. And you're not scanning barcodes. No. You're actually doing you're doing search research in the Amazon app. And we've even had people lately saying you don't even need the seller app. You can just use the Amazon buying app, Amazon.com on your cell phone. Yep. And type in the brand. Like this might be a winner. You pull it out, type in the brand name, you do a little search. Maybe it's not something that's on the shelf in front of you, but there's a different version. There's a 3-pack of this that you can easily source. Yeah. And it's got an incredible margin behind it. So you track that down, right? There's just all kinds of ways to do this business. What other tips do you have for us though? Were you going to say something there?
I was going to say that's what we did with our family when we visited Cincinnati. We kind of showed them how to use that app and bring us things that they thought would be a good deal. So it works.
So, a couple of other things here. Just because something's a deal today doesn't mean it'll be a deal next week or even next month. For us, Keep is our friend, and we've sourced a lot of things in the 12 months that we've been doing this. Some things that we sourced 12 months ago are not a deal right now, but they were a deal last month, and they might be a deal again in 3 months. So, if you find something that looks like it's going to bounce around like that, just be in it for the long term, right? I was really impatient early on, and as soon as my inventory got there, I would be like lowering my price until I sold it. But if you just hang out for a little bit, you'll probably be okay. So Keep is our friend when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, learning to read a Keepa graph and
Yep.
seeing, if there's more sellers coming on the scene, that's not necessarily a good thing. If there's fewer sellers coming on the scene,
Yep.
hang on to that product because the price is going to go up soon. The demand is
Yep.
going to, we love to see that
Exactly.
descending line of sellers.
Yep.
That means probably price is
Yes.
going to go up on this thing. Hang in there.
Right.
Right. So Keepa is pretty invaluable. And that's part of the training that we have in the Proven Amazon course, specifically in the replens training.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys have spent a lot of time studying Keepa, which is it is a paid tool. It's very inexpensive. We don't have an affiliate relationship with them, but man, we use a lot of their stuff. We use their tool quite a bit in this community because you can really find winners very well. That's really the only tool that we consistently recommend for people who are ready to get serious about replens and
Right.
retail and online sourcing. That's the only tool you need. You might
It
need
is
some
really
help with
the
your
only
numbers,
tool.
but what other tools do you guys use? You guys use an inventory lab or what do you have?
Today we're using Inventory Lab, and we use an on-page like estimator for profit. But it's basically a shortcut to the FBA calculator, which Amazon offers.
Mhm.
And I think you're exactly right, Jim. All you really need is Keepa, and the rest of it is available for free.
It's
And you can
optional.
figure.
Yeah, or free. Yeah.
The rest of it is really more of a increase your efficiency when your time is worth more than putting your individual items into an Amazon shipping plan, right? You can get a scanner and just put things in a box, and it goes a lot faster that way. Or you can actually outsource the whole thing, like we've done.
Yes.
And that's actually one of the things I want to talk about is a different perspective can make a huge difference on your outlook. So I've seen people say, and I was one of those in the beginning too, is like, oh gosh, if I pay for a prep center, I'm not going to make any money, but I don't really want to do all the work. Well, what we found is that we found a couple of our most profitable SKUs can actually pay for all the prep fees for everything else for the entire month. Mm-hmm. So if you've got one of your best SKUs that's like $8 or $10 a profit and you're selling it 30 times a month, well, that can pay for the prep for all the rest of your stuff that you're sending in. So you don't have to necessarily take $1 off or $1.50 or whatever it is that you're paying for your prep center off of every single item. Just know that something else is going to pay for that, and it can be one of your profitable SKUs.
That's a good tip. And we'll stick a link in the show notes at silentjim.com/podcast to our prep center network. It's a free link. There are a lot of prep centers in the United States, Canada, around the world that you can use. And just like we've talked about today, you can send your inventory there. They'll get it ready and send it into Amazon for you. So you don't have to actually fill your house up with boxes. You can do this with very limited space that way. And pay someone else to do the prep. And really the only skill you need, I've been saying this a lot lately, to succeed in this business is the skill of finding profitable products. Doing that part yourself. It's the only skill you need. Everything else you can pay someone a couple bucks to take care of. Because if you're able to find profitable products, I would argue you don't even need an Amazon account.
Right.
You can do someone else's. You can, right? You can teach people how to do this and spread, get paid to do that. There's so many ways to monetize this. Once you have that basic skill, that's the key that opens the door, and then the possibilities are endless. And it sounds like you guys have gotten really good at it as a team. I love that. I just love that you guys work together as a team. It's so cool. So anything else on your list that you wanted to cover? I think this has been a phenomenal episode.
Well, thanks a lot, Jim. I mean, there's just a couple of things. Did you have anything you want to say?
No, I was just tickled that it said that.
Oh, Robin, you're awesome. I can tell who the brains of the operation is.
Yeah, me too. So with all the merchant fulfilling we were doing in the beginning, we would get in a situation where someone would say that an item wasn't delivered to them, or it wasn't what they thought it was, or they would want a refund. And we were kind of like in the beginning, but Robin, in her infinite wisdom and persistent positive mental attitude, just said, you know what, let's just have 100% satisfaction guarantee, policy, whatever you want to call it.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. And just give the refund, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's just consider the cost of doing business for us. And when we did that, it just made sleeping at night so much easier. And we're not worried about whether someone's trying to take money from us or whatever, right? We just refund. It's gone. Because you know what? I sold 3 more today, so it doesn't matter, right? The other thing, a couple of things, and don't let me I'm not leaving without giving you some props, Jim. We have these things that I used to struggle with early on. Like I remember buying these buckets of sidewalk chalk last year about this time. I was like, oh, this is going to be a sweet deal. And I bought it, like 6 of them, and I shipped it in. And before my stuff even got to the warehouse, Amazon was selling it for like $5 less than I could buy it for. Or another one's like, oh, someone got on my listing and they're tanking the price. It seemed to happen to me early on every deal, right? Or I sent in my items and now there's like 24 people on there and I'm not going to make any money. Mm-hmm. And the question we just had to ask ourselves is, you know what cures that?
More SKUs.
More SKUs. Just go get some more SKUs. And we did that. And it makes a huge difference because then, like you mentioned earlier on, if one of them goes bad, you can either wait on it or, liquidate it and put your money into something else. But there's no sense getting wrapped around the axle for us around, those types of situations. They're going to come up. You can't avoid it, right? And then lastly, positive mental attitude. What we say, that's what's up.
That's what's up.
I read someone said one time, do the energy work and the rest will follow. And for us, that is a quote by Napoleon Hill, which is, if you can conceive it and you can believe it, you can achieve it. And that's what we're all about. And you are doing that, blazing a trail. We're right behind you. This community also does makes a ton of inspiring posts. You posted one this morning from someone who's doing like $4,000 a day or something like that on replens, and that's just phenomenal. And that's a lot of what keeps us going. And we're really thankful to be part of the community, Jim.
Man, thank you so much. And yeah, this community of business building warriors is truly something special. I can't think of anywhere else online right now where you can go hang out. And it's not that everybody's winning all the time. I've certainly made my share of mistakes. Everyone on our team has. We've all bumped our head, stubbed our toe, looked back over our shoulder with would'ves, could'ves, and should'ves.
Yeah.
But there's so much positivity here. There's so much hope and encouragement. And people who started 2 months ago and now they're putting money in the bank and they're having fun. And now they're talking about bringing dad home. And now they're talking about starting a business as a married couple. And it's just such a place of positivity. It's irreplaceable. I love this community. And it is like family to me. And the fact that you guys find encouragement and inspiration from it, it does my heart good, man. It just tells me we're onto something truly awesome here. And I want that to continue indefinitely. It's not the gym show. I emphasize that. I have for years. I want to be fully replaceable in this equation. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a book I read. I've mentioned it a couple times, but one of the premise of the book was, why is it that cities tend to last for centuries, but businesses last for years at best? Cities last a long time, businesses don't. Why is that? And it came down to culture, community. It's not one person at the top making this. It's you've created a culture. You've created a community that thinks in a certain way. And I'd like to think that that's what we've built here. It's something that would continue. Even without me, even without some of the other key players, it's a community of people who say, let's use the internet creatively to launch and grow businesses, and let's support each other as we do that. That's something pretty special. And we've been doing it a long time. So thanks for giving some props to the community, and thank you for the encouragement. I appreciate that.
You bet.
Well, this has been a cool episode for me. A very refreshing way to end the week. We're recording this on a Friday. This is a great way to end the week, and I hope the listeners feel encouraged as well. Our guests made a lot of references to a lot of really cool resources and tools. We'll stick all those links in the show notes at silentjim.com/podcast. I think probably the most important resource is just the free Facebook group. That's where they hang out. That's where they made their posts that got our attention. And that's what I would encourage listeners to jump over and do that. But I'm going to wrap this episode up by just saying, hey, God bless all the business building warriors out there doing their thing in the battle. We're in your corner. There's good people in our community who are here to support you and encourage you, whatever stumbling block you're hitting. Maybe you haven't even gotten started yet. The best thing to do is to get into our free Facebook group. If you're ready to spend just a little bit of cash, jump into our Proven Amazon course and get going. We'll step you through the process. Maybe you'll be a success story on our podcast at some point. So thank you guys for being on the show today. Thank you to the listeners for hanging out with us today. We'll have another episode like this again for you guys real soon.